Well, hey guys, this is Tommy Olson. Sorry for being late today. It's 5:13 on Sunday, and we're normally live at 5. But today we're live at 5:13 because I just got back from an event that I had a small part in producing, I guess you would say, to honor a classmate. This is episode 60. I call this Awake for Kay, and that's because a recent classmate and great friend of all of ours from Fairfield, Kay Tucker, as we knew her from high school, but her, I guess, most recent legal name was Kay Tucker Allen. And Kay passed away. Oh, I guess it's been a little over a week ago. I think it was maybe the end of May, like the 31st or something. I don't know that exact date, but circumstances being what it is, there wasn't an opportunity to have a funeral service. I think she was cremated and the ashes placed with her mom down in Chilton County, where she and her mom were laid to rest there. And so some of us from Fairfield who knew Kay well tried to put together I guess you would say a memorial service for Kay. And obviously we didn't have a whole lot of time because we had it today, but we tried to get the word out to as many people as possible. And this afternoon was the day we had it, so that's why I'm running late here on what is amounting to be episode 60 of Senior Moments, Evidence of a Misspent Youth. There's a lot of things that I guess a lot of us could say about Kay. She was a wonderful person and just full of life. And in her latter months and years, she had a lot of issues medically that tried to, I guess, shut down that wonderful spirit that she had. But there was always that glimmer that came through when you spoke with Kay, in an effort to communicate with her while she was having so many medical problems. And so I thought I would just, first of all, I ran a reel, I think it was episode 22, about a situation that I had with Kay that I'm going to show in just a moment. But I wanted to show you perhaps a couple of images that came from the wake this afternoon. We held it down at Beef O Brady's down in Helena, and they were kind enough to give us a portion of the area where the bar was and have a bit of a privacy moment there, and had a fair number of people come, and lots of folks that were remembering Kay, and you'll see them in these pictures here in just a moment. But in fact, let me just show a couple of these shots. This particular scene, you may not recognize the lady sitting there in the center of the frame, the blonde. That is Joan McMinn, and Joan wanted to come to the wake because she and Kay worked together at Bell South for, I think she said 27 years, and so she knew where a lot of the bodies were buried back then, but she didn't really go into any detail. She was a little shy, and but she wanted to attend, and I think enjoyed seeing the folks that, had the opportunity to come. I don't know if this was just a shot that I had of Kay. If I can get this on the screen. I'm flying blind here today because I did not have a lot of time to prep, but I'm not sure when this was made. It must have been one of our more recent class reunions where Kay was in attendance. And then let's see what else I can come up with here. This was that class reunion down at the fish market. I think it was on 280, and she was there, bright and shiny on the front row, and a lot of folks that were there attending. Let me get this guy out of the way here. Well, I don't know if I can get him out of the way. All right, so this was one of our reunions, and you can see, Kay in the picture sitting with our classmates there at the fish market. And see what else I can come up with here. Oh, yours truly and Kay, I think at that same reunion. And like I said, she was always smiling, and we loved her for that. This one is another one from the reunion this evening. This one, as you can probably tell, Scotty Gwynn there on the right, and sitting to his right was Kathy Kniff, and she's got a married name, but I don't know what it is. So hopefully you'll forgive me for that, Kathy, because I don't know your married name. So try one other little thing here, if I can. Let's see if I can do this. Sit tight, folks. This is live. So we're going to see if I can get through here. Okay. All right. As I said, this was Scott Gwynn, who was there at the wake today. We called him Scotty in high school. I don't know if he still goes by that or not. And then Kathy Kniff, one of my former neighbors. And bless her heart, Cheryl Kittinger came. It was always good to see Cheryl. I haven't seen Cheryl in a long time. And anyway, she was there. And, of course, Steve Stewart, former athlete at Fairfield, played ball together there, played ball at Samford University. Steve was also in attendance. And let's see what else I can find here in the way of pictures. Let's see. If you get bored, you can take a nap here if you want to. But I'm going to see if I can get as many of these on as I can. This is Benita. She was Benita Brooks in high school. Excuse me, that's not the screen I want. Benita, and then Ellen Bice, Story, I think is her married name now, and hiding in the foreground, but showing her back is our queen of Fairfield High School. That would be Donna Hardy Troncalli. And let's see, I'm sure I've got some more here. These are kind of taken on the fly here, and to be honest with you, they had no idea I was going to be showing these, so hopefully that's okay with them. Steve, Kathy, Cheryl, again, and having a little technical difficulty here, pardon me. Let's see what else I can find here. Fresh from the iPhone. There's a good one of Donna and Ellen. And everybody seemed to be having a good time talking about Kay. One of the things that we were able to do was to get a letter from Dr. Tommy Smith, who was our choir director, if you recall, at Fairfield, and Kay's choir director there in the high school, and probably at First Baptist Church too, when she was attending there. This is a pretty good one right here. This is a little bit of a group shot with Ellen and Steve, Benita, and Cheryl, and Kathy, all in attendance. The other letter that we got sent in to read, it's my honor to read today, was from her band director, Sid Garwood. You know, I don't know why, but I always keep calling him Sid Garfield. I think that's a cat comedy thing. I'm not sure. And I know he wasn't president of the United States. So uh, Sid Garwood was the band director there at Fairfield. I guess it was our senior year. I'm not sure about our junior year because Don Cornett was there somewhere in that interim period. But here's a good shot of Donna's back and Benita, Steve, and Ellen, Cheryl. Bill Frill came in late and blessed us with his presence, standing there next to Kathy, and then Scott Gwen there in this group shot that we see. And anyway, I think there's maybe one more if I can find it. I'm having to pull these from a different source. That's not it. And that's not it. And I guess that might have been all of them. Anyway, so I guess kind of making all this come together. I told the story at the wake, and for those of you who haven't heard it, there or when I did it live on Senior Moments, Kay was probably my first date, and so I made a little reel about that and our going to the football banquet my sophomore year. So let me run that now, and I hope you enjoy this, and I'll be back right after this is over if I can find the right button to push. So hang on. Hey guys, this is Tommy Ellison, Fairfield High School alumni and friends of Kay Tucker Allen. And I wanted to remind you this Sunday at 2 p.m., we're celebrating Kay and her passing with a special wake at Beef O Brady's there in Old Town, Helena. It's Sunday, June 14th, 2026. Starting around 2 p.m. and lasting till, well, when we leave. And that's at 4300 Helena Road, right there. You know what? I just realized, God, that's not the reel I wanted to show. That was the one we were advertising and putting out the word for the wake. Let me see. I think this is, I believe this is the one I really wanted to show you. So stand by. It's live. We can't edit this out. Hey, I'm Tommy Ellison, and this is Senior Moments. I can't tell you what I had for breakfast this morning, but I remember every detail of that time. This thing the afternoon is 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, and it's time for Senior Moments, Evidence of a Misspent Youth. I'm Tommy Ellison, your host, and I guess the reason that I'm here is because these are my senior moments and things that well, I'm not sure I'm glad to relive them, but in some cases they do bring back a lot of old memories. And today is no exception. Name of this episode, this is episode number 22, by the way, and it's called She Never Saw It Coming, and Neither Did I. This is Well, this goes back to my high school days, and we talked a little bit about college football last week, and I can't seem to get away from it. But it was a big part of my life, and this particular episode that I'm sharing with you tonight, really represents some of the moments that you kind of want to forget, and yet people and your memories of them keep bringing them back. And this is one of those that pops up in my mind on occasion. And sometimes I run into people that I knew in high school and that actually witnessed this event, uh, reminding me of it or seeing if I remember it. And of course, as I said, some things you never forget. And this is one. I really have tried to forget this one, but it never quite seems to fade away. And it took place at my high school, Fairfield High School, football banquet. And this would have been my sophomore year. So this would have been my first year of attending the banquet. But more importantly, it was not only my first year to attend the football banquet, it was also my first year to have what I would call a real date. And this date, I'm going to, well, I'm not going to change the name to protect the guilty and the innocent here, but I'm going to just use her first name. And her first name was Kay. That was her real name. And this was, somewhat of a formal, I guess you would call it a semi-formal banquet. And, I was wearing a coat and tie and dressed up like I was going to mass at that time. And she was wearing this semi-formal dress. And if I recall, I think her mother made it for her. I'm not sure if she could probably answer that question better if she would live up to recalling this memory. But it was a somewhat semi-formal. I don't know how to explain this other than to say that it was kind of like shoulderless. Is that the right word for it, ladies? And it was cut rather low, on her shoulders, modestly, of course. This was 1965, maybe. And I mentioned that only for one reason. She was wearing what I would call a low-cut dress. And the reason I mention it is because when I arrived at her house, I had purchased a corsage. I think, if I recollect, it was a white carnation and maybe two carnations. And when I picked it up at the flower shop, the place smelled like funerals that I'd been to. And, I didn't know what at the time, but that was probably a precursor of what was to come later, the funeral part, that is. And you'll see what I mean shortly. I remember she, following protocol, had me a boutonniere, and I think that's French for flower on your shoulder. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, I was kind of proud because it was one of the first dates I'd ever been on. And I'm still a little fuzzy on the details, but I think my mom actually drove me there to pick her up because, well, I wouldn't have been of age to have a driver's license. So I don't recall it being my dad. I think it must have been my mom that, dropped me off at the front of the house. I went to the front door, and I remembered the awkwardness. Guys probably that have been in this situation, you know what I'm fixing to say. There was an awkwardness of trying to pin the corsage onto the front of her dress, especially while her dad was kind of overseeing my arrival. And I eventually blundered it so bad I had to turn the responsibilities. Her mom said, "Can I do that for you, Tommy?" And I said, "Would you please?" Because I'm shaking like this because, let's face it, it was somewhat low cut. And if it was Star Trek, this was going to places where man had never gone before. So nevertheless, it was a little bit embarrassing for me. And so mom took over Not my mom, her mom took over and pinned that corsage on her bodice, as it were. And it was a nice evening. And I wish I could remember who was sitting at the table. There were like four top tables, four to a table. Uh, and the meal, was typical banquet meal, if I remember correctly. It was, the rubber chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes, a roll. And it wasn't too much unlike our pregame meals playing football, except there was no dry toast to go along with it. And I knew there was going to be a program, where awards were being passed out to players of the year and most valuable players and things of that nature, best linemen, best running backs, blah, blah, blah. And, being a sophomore, I wasn't expected to win any of those. And so my expectations were not set too high. But that's really not what the story is all about. I was there really for the benefit of the team, being a part of the team, and the opportunity to take a really cute girl out on a real date. Again, it wasn't about football. It was about a cute girl named Kay on a real date. And little did I know there was one additional part of the program that I wasn't totally prepared for. And this is where the trouble began. Now, picture this. Big lineman, me, Tommy Ellison, number 77 in high school, proudly standing up at the table to introduce myself to the audience. Many parents were there and booster club members, and so it was a pretty large group, and each person was asked to stand up. Each player was asked to stand up and tell their name and their position and to introduce their date. So far, so good. Problem is, my date, as I stood to introduce myself, I'm looking at the head table and my date is slightly out of my peripheral vision. And what I didn't realize was she was also standing right beside me. And Kay was, I'm probably 6'3", 6'4" when this took place. And Kay, if I had to guess, was probably around 4'11". Little petite girl. And so when I swung my big arm around to the right to show everybody who she was and more or less point her out, even though she was standing there beside me, well, I'll show you what happened. It was like wham. I caught her right in the chest. And the next thing I know, she's, flying backwards right back into her chair. And you can imagine the response of the room. Well, you can imagine my response, but the response of the room, everybody saw it happen. 4 people at every table, they were laughing, they were gasping, while I just kind of stood there, red-faced, trying to recover. And I made sure she was okay, and I took my seat. Now, Coach Lutz, Coach Harold Red Lutz, great coach, was sitting at the head table, and of course, sitting up high on the dais, he saw it all happen. And just like a commentator in the press box, he just had to add his commentary. He said, "Wow, Ellison, that's the best lick you've hit all year." It was a banquet blunder that I really never lived down. The others that witnessed it might have forgotten it, but I certainly haven't. And years later, well, it qualifies for a perfect senior moment. You ever had an awkward introduction at a banquet fail, or just a funny high school memory? Drop it in the comment. I would love to see it and hear about it because I know they're there. I remember a few from friends of mine. But I'll close this episode. All right. Well, that was it. You know, like I said, I was wanting to run that reel because it wasn't too much longer after I made that reel and told that story. I think that was in September of what year is this? 2025 is when I made that reel, and I contacted Kay and I told her about it so that she could watch it as well. And she responded back, and she got a kick out of it. And of course, I'm sure it was a night that she had never forgotten, although she might have liked to have. But you know, I don't think we ever went on another date. It was kind of a one and done for me. So anyway, she was a sweet girl. You know, I've been told that she was baptized at First Baptist Church there in Fairfield in her youth, and I take on faith that Kay was a believer, and I know that we all have our ups and downs and moments when we're, you know, walking in the good graces of God, and there's moments when we're perhaps walking away. And I don't know I can say anything about Kay's relationship, but I do think that she probably was a believer and that she was saved by grace, and that's my hope, and that's my wishes for her now. You know, there's a verse in Isaiah, it's 57, chapter 57, verse 1, and I'm going to very loosely paraphrase this because I don't have it memorized exactly, but it basically says, people wonder why someone dies before their time. What we don't realize is God is protecting them from the evil to come. And as we all know, Kay was suffering from a number of issues health-wise, and I guess the good Lord decided to take her home. And that's a home where I hope to see her one day as well. And we'll laugh and we'll reminisce, and we'll perhaps talk about that night at the football banquet. So I really want to thank those of you that came to the little wake that we had and went out of your way to come over to Helena to the wake. And it wasn't a large group, but it was a very special group of friends for Kay and her send away, as it were, for us to honor her in her departure from this earth. So anyway, if you have a comment, we would certainly appreciate you posting it. And if you hit the like button, if you enjoy the reel, and I feel kind of funny asking that in the context of a wake, but you know, this frankly was a celebration of Kay, not a time to be sad, but a celebration and a time to laugh and tell stories. Actually, and we had two letters that I had the good fortune of reading. One was from Dr. Tommy Smith, who was her choir director at Fairfield First Baptist as well as Fairfield High School. He was choir director there for 5 years, I think, during the time we were coming through. And then her band director, she was a big band member. I don't remember exactly what instrument she played. It might have been the flute, if I had to guess, or maybe the clarinet. I'm not sure. But anyway, Sid Garwood. I don't know why I call him Garfield. He was never president. Sid Garwood was her band director, and he sent a very nice note and talked a little bit about the experiences he had at Fairfield and with Kay, kind of keeping him in line and keeping him humble because he wasn't but about 5 years older than we were that senior year, fresh out of college, first job teaching band. And he was a good one. I remember the bands being absolutely fabulous under his tutelage. And, one of the things you may not realize is when you're sitting in that locker room waiting to go on the field for the first part of the game and you hear those drum cadences and you hear that marching rhythm and the kids getting into it, it really pumps you up. So that band and that whole music program was absolutely fabulous at Fairfield. And for those of you that partook in it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyway, I'm going to take this one to the house, but I do appreciate you watching the episode. Sorry for all the technical back and forth. I'll try to do better next time. But my name is Tommy Ellison, and this is Senior Moments, and I wish you all a great week coming up. And Fairfield folks, I love you all, and I hope you have a great Sunday afternoon and a great week to come. Take care. Bye-bye. Let's see if I can get out of here. You're not going to help me out here, are you? Sorry, guys.